Rendaver had always been a firm believer in three things. Never trust a Rylian with a deck of cards. Never order coffee from a station vending unit that smells like ozone. And never, under any circumstances, purchase a ship from a trader who begins negotiations with the phrase, "Listen, technically she's still spaceworthy." He broke all three rules in the same week. The dockyard was the kind of place where dreams came to die and then got melted down for scrap. Rows of forgotten vessels lined the rust-colored tarmac, some tilted at odd angles like they'd simply given up mid-flight and collapsed in exhaustion. The sales office was a repurposed freight crate with blinking lights that spelled out worthy spacecraft and maybe a few surprises. That maybe should have been his first warning. Still, Ren needed a ship. Not a good one, just one that flew. One that wouldn't ask too many questions or report him to the nearest tax authorities when it scanned his ID. Something with a hull, a pulse, and preferably a working toilet. The seller, a wiry old man with an artificial eye that clicked when he blinked, led him to the far end of the lot with a dramatic wave of his spanner. "There she is," he said proudly. "She's seen better days, and possibly a small war. But she's got soul." The vessel squatted on its landing struts like a drunk bird. It had once been elegant, maybe, in that 80-year-old cruiser kind of way. Now it looked like someone had used it for target practice, then apologized by taping on a few new panels. A scorch mark ran along one side. The main thruster assembly was hanging on with the desperate tenacity of a loose tooth. The nameplate was barely legible, but Ren could make out the words Calliope's wreck. "Perfect." He signed the transfer codes with the grim determination of a man marrying into regret. The seller handed over a crusty key fob and an ominous smile. "She'll grow on you," he said, patting Ren's shoulder like a man consoling a widower. The first time he stepped aboard, the lights flickered with the dramatic flare of a horror movie, and something somewhere deep inside groaned. Ren stopped, adjusted his jacket, and said out loud, "If you kill me in the first week, I swear I'll haunt your carbon filter." The ship didn't respond, which was worse. Calliope's wreck smelled like time. Burnt plastic, spilled coolant, and that faint nostalgic scent of old socks. The kind that got left in a locker during a solar flare. But the interior layout was decent. Bridge, crew quarters, engineering. A cargo hold big enough to hide a medium-sized brontosaurus if one felt particularly nostalgic about extinct Earth fauna. Ren spent the next 3 days crawling through conduits, coaxing old systems online, and yelling at inanimate objects. He cursed like a man possessed, offered bribes to defunct systems, and at one point threatened the navigation console with a wrench unless it stopped rerouting through what it claimed was a more scenic path. He slept on a pile of insulation foam and used a crate of expired protein bars as a nightstand. By day 4, things began to function, just barely. The emergency power grid lit up. The internal sensors began pinging their usual angry alerts. The water recycler still refused to accept Ren's DNA as worthy of hydration, but he won that fight with a bypass cable and a very stern glare. It was on the evening of day 5, while searching for the auxiliary life support junction, that he heard it. A soft, rhythmic noise, not mechanical, not electrical, organic. He froze mid-step in the corridor, listened. There it was again, a whimper. Then a small, plaintive cry. Nope, nope, that was not in the manual. He grabbed his sidearm, not that he had any idea how to use it properly, and followed the sound down a dark stairwell into the lower cargo bay. The place was a mess of crates, coils of unused cabling, and one truly menacing spiderbot that hissed at him from a shadow before scuttling off. The cry came again. He rounded the corner, stepped behind a toppled crate of thermal blankets, and stopped. There, crouched between 2 old plasma coils, was a woman. At least she looked like a woman. She was humanoid, slender, cloaked in something stitched from repurposed fabric. Her eyes were large and wary, glowing faintly blue in the dark. Her ears were elongated, tapering like wings laid back along her skull. She held a child to her chest, a toddler barely old enough to stand, with matching eyes and soft, pale skin that shimmered like wet moonlight. They stared at him. He stared back. The silence stretched out so long he began to mentally rehearse apologies in 6 different languages. "Hi," he said finally, because his brain had collapsed into survival mode. This is exactly the in-flight entertainment section." The woman didn't move. The child blinked. Ren slowly raised his free hand. "Not here to hurt you. You're not a hallucination, are you? Because I once licked a faulty med stick and thought I was married to a toaster for 3 days. Nothing." He glanced down at the kid who was now picking something sticky off his boot. "Right, okay. So we're doing the silent but judgmental approach. Cool, totally fine, not weird at all." The woman spoke. Her voice was quiet, heavily accented. "You are the new pilot." Ren lowered the sidearm slightly. "Captain, technically. I mean, if you count borderline poor decisions and absolutely no formal training." She didn't laugh. Ren sighed. "Okay, listen, I'm not gonna report you. You're not the first person to squat in a ship's hold. Though most of them don't come with tiny sidekicks." The woman glanced at the child, then back at Ren. "We will leave at once." Ren blinked. "Leave? Lady, the ship doesn't even have functional escape pods. You're safer here than in the docking ring bathrooms. Trust me, I know." She hesitated. "Look," he said, softer now. "If you've been hiding here, then you've got your reasons. I'm not asking, just stay low, stay out of the sensor logs. I'll figure something out. In return, don't stab me in my sleep." The child looked up. "Boop." Ren frowned. "Did he just call me Boop?" The woman stood, tall and dignified even in the grime. "It is a word in our tongue." "What's it mean?" She paused. "You do not want to know." They stared at each other, and then finally Ren smiled. "Well, welcome aboard the Calliope's wreck. She's held together with hope, caffeine, and at least one lie, but she's ours now." The lights above them flickered, then shorted out completely. From the darkness, Ren sighed. "And she's jealous, apparently." The next morning started with Ren being pelted in the face by a sock. It was pink, suspiciously damp, and had tiny animated starfish dancing across the fabric. "Okay," he muttered, wiping his face. "So that's how today's going to go." Talon stood at the edge of the hallway, clutching a second sock with what could only be described as strategic malice. The kid's aim was disturbingly accurate for someone who still called most buttons beep things. Ren peeked out from behind his crate bed shield. "If that hits me, I swear you're going on airlock cleaning duty." Talon giggled and lobbed the sock. It ricocheted off a vent panel and slapped against the wall. Missed." Ren stuck his tongue out. "Try again in a few years when your motor skills catch up to your attitude." Sierra entered just in time to witness round 3 of the sock war. She said nothing, but her raised brow could have cut steel. Ren dropped the sock mid-windup. "We were bonding." She folded her arms. "In my culture, throwing clothing is a challenge of honor." So he just declared a toddler duel. "Should I write my will in crayon?" Sierra didn't smile, but the corners of her mouth twitched barely. That counted as a win in Ren's book. Over the past few days, they'd found a rhythm, if not exactly a routine. Sierra and Talon occupied the rear crew quarters, where she had rewired 2 broken panels to emit low-frequency sleep tones, and replaced a ceiling vent with some kind of heat dispersal mesh made from shredded blankets. Ren didn't ask questions. He just admired the results. The kid hadn't cried once since. They ate together, if one could call eating a slow negotiation between ancient ration bricks and Sierra's herb-paste concoctions. She seemed unimpressed by the nutritional gel Ren offered her, calling it dead food pretending to be alive. Dee made a note not to offer her the shrimp-flavored one. During their awkward meals, they exchanged stories. Or more precisely, Ren talked, and Sierra listened with the patience of someone who'd heard far worse. "I once got kicked off a freighter job for accidentally launching an escape pod," he said over a bowl of rehydrated something. "In my defense, the button was labeled emergency solution. which to me sounded like something a bathroom would have. Sierra blinked slowly. You are still alive because you are either extremely lucky or profoundly underestimated. Ren grinned. Thank you, I think. Talon had taken to shadowing Ren throughout the ship, mimicking his movements with exaggerated flair. He waddled behind Ren in engineering, repeating phrases like twist the sparky thing and jam it till it works. Ren had a quiet panic when the kid nearly rerouted coolant through the coffee dispenser, but otherwise it was going well. The ship, meanwhile, wasn't as thrilled with the changes. The AI core remained dark, either missing or sulking in deep code. Ren had bypassed enough circuits to get basic flight controls working, but anything beyond that required yelling and occasionally bribing the diagnostic panel with recycled warmth credits. The hold was still off-limits per Sierra's request. She said she needed the space to calibrate sensory alignment for Talon. Ren didn't know what that meant, but he respected it. Besides, he wasn't eager to find out what else might be living back there. It was on the 6th night that things shifted. Ren was in the cockpit rerouting auxiliary power when the ship jolted, a tiny hiccup, more vibration than movement. He blinked at the nav screen. Nope, 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 nobody invited a guest. He pulled up the passive sensor logs. A blinking orange dot hovered at the edge of range. He squinted. That is a bounty drone. Fantastic. He ran. Sort of. It was more of a tired jog laced with half-trips and one accidental kick to a toolbox. He burst into the common room where Sierra was teaching Talon how to fold emergency blankets into animal shapes. We have a problem, he said. Big One metal has lasers, not a metaphor. Sierra stood immediately. Where? Edge of range. It's just sitting there, which means it's scanning, probably sniffing for ID codes. Did you disable the ship's transponder? I was going to, right after fixing the inertial dampeners and the waste expulsion seals, and finding the thing that keeps whispering in the ductwork at night. Sierra's face was a study in quiet judgment. They will identify us. Ren paced. Not if we shut down, go dark, make it look like we're just floating junk. Talon tugged on Ren's sleeve. Boop scared. I'm not scared, Ren said. I'm okay, a little scared. I don't like being vaporized before breakfast. They powered down everything non-essential. Ren even disconnected his portable heater, which earned him a cold breeze and a healthy dose of instant regret. The ship fell into silence, save for the faint hum of emergency oxygen cycling. Hours passed. Talon fell asleep curled between two storage units. Sierra sat cross-legged in the corridor, eyes closed, hands resting on her knees in some kind of meditative trance. Ren huddled in the cockpit, watching the drone's signal blink. Eventually, it drifted away. Ren let out a breath that had been holding his spine hostage. He returned to find Sierra still in position. She opened her eyes as he approached. It's gone. He nodded, for now. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that weighed more than words. You don't have to stay, she said finally. We will find another way. Ren shook his head. You're safer here. I've got to ship tools, bad decisions for days, and no one's looking for me yet. She didn't answer, but her gaze softened, just a fraction. Besides, he said, if I left, who would stop Talon from turning my control panel into a jungle gym? From the cargo bay came the sound of something very breakable being knocked over. Ren winced. I should probably check on that. As he stood, Sierra said, Boop means loud protector. In Lurine. He paused. You're lying. Yes. Ren laughed. Fair enough. And just like that, something shifted again. The ship still groaned with age, the stars outside still held danger, and the transponder still blinked a little too optimistically. But inside Calliope's wreck, things felt slightly less broken, if only for a moment. Ren woke to the sound of chewing. Not animal chewing or mechanical grinding, but very specific, very loud chewing. The kind of chewing that suggested someone had taken a bite out of something they probably shouldn't have, possibly wiring. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. If the kid is eating the nav cables again, I'm turning this ship around. And I don't even know where around is yet. Down the hall, Talon sat on the floor happily munching a glowing orange root. It pulsed faintly every time he bit into it, like it was trying to scream. Sierra crouched nearby, calibrating a portable scanner with the kind of calm precision that said, "Yes, I did just feed my child a radioactive vegetable, and no, I don't need your judgment." Ren blinked. "That thing is glowing. Do we need to talk about the word edible?" "It's a stabilized pulse route," Sierra said, not looking up. "It promotes cell repair, immune resilience, and auditory clarity. So it's a multivitamin that doubles as a flashlight. Neat." Talon waved what remained of the route proudly. "Boop want." Ren raised his hands. "I'll pass. My intestines already hate me without adding bioluminescence to the list." They had been drifting through a remote corridor of uncharted space, technically uncharted by any reputable organizations, but Ren had found a half-dozen shady pilot logs marking it as F9G. Low patrol, high weird. The kind of place where sensors glitch for no reason and ships occasionally report hearing music through the hull. Perfect vacation spot. Callie was holding together, mostly thanks to Ren's late-night patchwork and a generous amount of industrial adhesive with a warning label that translated to "Don't inhale unless you want to meet your ancestors." He was in the middle of recalibrating the ship's navigation AI when the proximity alarm chirped. Not screamed, chirped, like it was too tired to care. Ren leaned over the console. "Oh, good, a rogue asteroid cluster. Why not add sudden death to the menu?" Sierra entered behind him, arms crossed. "I told you this route was unstable. You also told me the coffee dispenser would explode if I used non-sterile water, and look, only degree burns." Sierra sighed. "Asteroids don't negotiate, Ren. Neither do I before caffeine." The asteroids weren't natural. That became obvious as they drifted closer, moving too deliberately, forming clusters in oddly geometric patterns. Ren narrowed his eyes. "That's not a field, that's a formation." Sierra tapped into the console beside him. "Old mines, perhaps, or sentries, possibly cloaked platforms." Talon appeared under the console, clutching a wrench he clearly shouldn't have. "Boom boom rocks." Ren pointed at him. "You are way too excited about that." They maneuvered slowly, dodging debris and sensors. Ren coaxed the ship along with the skill of someone who'd once parallel parked in a rotating cargo bay during a blackout. They traced the signal to a derelict satellite drifting near the far edge of the formation. It was ancient, centuries out of date, practically fossilized by space dust and solar wear, but still pulsing, still singing. Sierra stared at the screen, expression unreadable. This shouldn't exist. Ren nudged a control. "Should I poke it with something? We have a broom." They docked manually. Ren insisted on wearing an EVA suit despite Sierra's assertion that fear doesn't protect lungs. He countered that neither did overconfidence. She didn't argue. She just handed him a portable torch and told him not to touch anything that glowed red. Inside the satellite, everything was dust, darkness, and fragments of memories. Holographic logs flickered to life, brief snippets of luring language half-corrupted, images of a small crew, a child's drawing taped to a wall still clinging to static charge. Ren exhaled slowly. This was a lifeboat. Sierra touched one panel gently, as if afraid it would vanish. "We thought none survived this far." They extracted the data core, half-fused to its cradle. Talon helped by making spaceship noises in the background, which Ren assured him was critical to the operation. Back aboard Callie, they decrypted what they could. The logs spoke of a hidden enclave, deep in a rogue planetary orbit shielded from the galactic grid. Survivors of the war, possibly dozens. Sierra stared at the final coordinates. "This changes everything." Ren leaned back in his chair. "You're telling me we just stumbled across the lost tribe of long-eared space elves because your kid has good ears, and I can't resist flying through sketchy asteroid fields?" Sierra didn't blink. "Essentially." Ren chuckled. I knew this week would be weird, but I didn't think it'd be found civilization weird. They sat in silence, the hum of the ship gently pulsing underfoot. Sierra turned to him. If we go there, you may not come back. Ren rubbed his jaw. Story of my life. But I've already got a sock war pending and a ship that groans when I insult it. At this point, I'm emotionally invested. Talon threw a pulse root at him. It missed by inches and stuck to the wall, still glowing. Ren pointed at it. And that's how I know this is a real adventure. Ren spent the better part of the next 2 hours trying to convince Callie that the rogue planet's gravity well wasn't, in fact, a romantic invitation. The ship's aging stabilizers groaned every time he adjusted course, and the inertial dampeners hiccuped like a drunk hiccuping robot each time he made a sharp turn. I swear, he muttered, tightening his harness, if we survive this, I'm buying you a nice thruster polish and a new seat cushion. From the co-pilot chair, Sierra didn't look convinced. Your ship may be suffering from navigational senility. Senility would be an improvement, Ren replied. Right now she's aiming for suicidal nostalgia. They broke through the gravitational interference after Callie did one last shimmy, which Ren was almost certain wasn't intentional. The rogue planet loomed ahead, unlit by any star, wrapped in layers of cloud like it was trying to hide from existence. Only the faint, artificial beacon they decoded from the old satellite led them toward the luring enclave. The signal grew stronger as they approached the dark side of the planet. There, buried in the shadows of jagged ridges and craters, was a structure. Not a settlement, not a station, something between the two. It rose like a webbed nest, formed from repurposed ships and modular habitats fused together with dark plating and stubborn hope. Are you sure they'll let us land? Ren asked. Because I'm getting a strong shoot first, question your ears later vibe. Sierra said nothing, simply activated an encrypted transmission code. A few tense seconds passed. Then a soft ping, and the beacon lights on the structure shifted, guiding them in. The docking was rough. The auto clamps pulled them down with a little too much enthusiasm, jostling the cargo bay and knocking Talon off his self-declared captain's beanbag throne. Ren caught the kid mid-roll. You okay? He asked. Talon grinned. Again. Nope, Ren said. One surprise atmospheric descent per day. The airlock opened to silence. No guards, no weapons. Just a long corridor lined with dim, cyan lights. Sierra stepped out first, straight-backed, eyes scanning. Ren followed with Talon perched on one hip and a portable flashlight that flickered in a way that made it feel sarcastic. They walked for what felt like hours, past abandoned terminals, sealed chambers, and one mural painted in something suspiciously luminescent. Finally, they reached a central chamber, round, echoing, lit from above by concentric rings of solar catchers. A group of people stood waiting. Not many. 24, maybe 3, all luring, all watching Sierra with the same expression, hope laced with suspicion. An elder stepped forward, her long ears threaded with thin cables and polished beads. Her voice echoed, smooth and wary. Sierra of the Irvani line, you vanished. I ran, Sierra said. We were hunted, my family was marked, my child born in hiding, I survived. You should not have come. Ren raised a hand. High human pilot. Temporary babysitter. Can confirm she's been pretty great. The elder ignored him completely. Sierra's gaze did not waver. I brought help. Ren looked behind him. I did. The elder studied him now as though noticing a banana taped to a piece of starship debris and being told it was a diplomatic envoy. This one? She asked. He fixed the ship, Sierra said. Ren smiled. Well, mostly, okay, partially. But I did disable a bounty drone using only 3 fire extinguishers and emotional damage. Talon wandered forward, completely unfazed, and hugged the elder's leg. You got snacks. The elder looked down at him, eyes wide. This is your child. Depends, Ren said. Is this a trick question? A few elders murmured to each other. One of them nodded. Another gestured toward the far wall where a panel slid open, revealing a dim corridor. You should rest. There are things we must discuss later. Back in Cali, Ren paced the length of the ship at least 6 times before collapsing into the pilot chair. Sierra sat opposite him, eyes distant. "So," he said, "that went well. You didn't get arrested. Talon didn't bite anyone. I didn't accidentally insult anyone's grandmother. I'm calling it a win." "They don't trust outsiders," she said. "Can't blame them. Most of us are a walking disaster. I mean, look at me." Sierra smiled faintly. "They fear discovery. They fear we brought danger." "We did bring danger," Ren said. "Remember the part where we escaped a bounty drone, and I threatened to poke it with a broom?" She turned serious. "They will ask to move, to find a new place. If the signal reached us, others will find it. It's only a matter of time." Ren nodded slowly. "Then we help." "You would do that?" "Well," he said, "I don't really have a day job anymore. My ship responds to insults, and your kid calls me Boop. I'm kind of emotionally entangled at this point." A soft tone interrupted them, a call from the Enclave's central relay. They were being summoned. The council had convened. This time more Lurine were present, some armed, some simply curious. The elder spoke first. "We've decided. If you can repair our long-range transports, we will relocate, quietly, in stages." Ren hesitated. "How many ships?" "5, the elder said. 6 if we wake the Ancient One." "I'm sorry, the Ancient One." "A mining hauler repurposed for colony defense. It has personality issues." Ren sighed. "Of course it does, because nothing in my life can be simple." They gave him access to the ships. Each one was a miracle of improvisation and hope. One had a power core held together with fusion tape and something that looked suspiciously like bubblegum. Another had repurposed waste disposal modules where the cockpit should be. He set to work immediately. Sierra joined him, rerouting systems with quiet skill. Talon helped by labeling tools with crayon drawings and announcing, "Fix complete," every few minutes, regardless of progress. By the end of the week, 3 ships were spaceworthy. The 4th would require an entire new cooling array. The 5th didn't even have gravity. The 6th, the Ancient One, was awake and muttering Old War chants in broken Lurine. "Tell me again why we're doing this," Ren groaned, head buried in a bundle of wires. Sierra handed him a sonic clamp. "Because you said you were emotionally entangled." He grinned. "I really need to stop talking." "You really do." Ren stood on top of the ancient hauler, squinting at the solar regulator panel like it had personally insulted his ancestry. He had spent the better part of the morning arguing with its outdated interface, which only spoke in pre-unification Lurine, and occasionally tried to activate its deflector array when someone sneezed too loud. "This thing is a flying haunted house," he muttered, yanking out a conduit. "All it needs is a creepy piano soundtrack and a ghost that judges my life choices." Sierra appeared beside him, holding a new calibration node. "It just needs translation. The core processor is still intact but fragmented." Ren took the node, then turned it upside down. "Which part of this plugs into the port that tried to electrocute me last time?" "The one with the 3 notches," she said, not looking up from her toolkit. "And if it electrocutes you again, that's because you're still grounding the circuit with your face." He installed it with only 2 minor shocks and 1 hissed insult that might have startled a nearby sensor drone. The console lit up. The ship purred or groaned into partial activation. A grainy hologram flickered to life, displaying a Lurine war icon and scrolling diagnostics in a dead dialect. "Hey, Cali," Ren said over his comlink. "I know I never said this before, but you are officially no longer the creepiest ship I've flown." Cali responded by rerouting ventilation into Ren's cabin. Again. They launched the first 2 ships at dusk cycle. The Lurine used old trade routes hidden from Imperial satellites, safe corridors maintained through shadow networks and forgotten beacons. The first group included the elderly, engineers, and one very confused botanist who kept asking if he could take the moss growing in Ren's cockpit. The second launch involved the families. Talon waved from a viewport, holding a drawing of a triangle-shaped version of Ren labeled Captain Boop. Ren pretended to wipe oil from his eye and definitely did not sniffle. Between launches, Ren and Sierra ran systems checks, oversaw fuel balancing and double-checked jump calibrations. They had a rhythm now, not perfect but practiced. Ren knew which tools Sierra would need before she asked. Sierra only sighed half as much when he told jokes mid-panic. During a rare pause, they sat in the cargo bay eating ration bars and something Sierra swore was protein paste, though Ren suspected it had been alive recently. "We could have left," Sierra said quietly. "After the first wave, just the three of us, no one would have stopped us." Ren took a slow bite. "Yeah, I thought about that, even made a secret plan, called it Operation Flee and Fix Nothing. Had a logo." "What changed?" Ren pointed toward the corridor, where a group of kids played tag near the supply crates. "They started trusting me." She nodded slowly. "You stayed longer than I expected." "You say that like you didn't bet on me running." "I didn't bet," she said. "I just prepared for the odds." He smiled, fair. The last two ships were nearly ready. The ancient hauler still refused to fly in a straight line and insisted on playing victory anthems every time it powered up. Ren left that issue alone. It was charming in a might crash through a moon kind of way. As they ran final diagnostics, a blip appeared on the edge of the long-range scanner. Not Imperial. Worse. "It's Krail mercenaries," Sierra said, voice clipped. "I've seen their signature before. They'll scan for any movement." Ren stared at the screen. "Great. Our options are run, hide, or convince them we're a sentient asteroid field. We can't wait. They'll detect us eventually. We have to launch now." The ships weren't prepped for synchronous jump. They could splinter in subspace if calculations drifted even slightly. Ren turned to Sierra. "Think you can align jump vectors across 6 ships with half a nav system and an overheating processor?" "I taught Talon to sleep through hull tremors. I can do this." They scrambled to stations. Ren coordinated from Callie's bridge, his fingers moving faster than his brain could track. Sierra's voice rang out over the relay system, crisp and commanding. For a moment, Ren forgot she'd ever been afraid. She looked like someone who had once defended a planet. The jump sequence locked in. The countdown began. The mercenary ship pinged them. A query, a challenge. Ren leaned into the console mic. "Hey there, strangers, just a boring old salvage crew. No luring refugees here. Definitely not coordinating a mass escape. Also, one of our crew has space scurvy, highly contagious." There was a pause, then the ping stopped. The mercs drifted back, confused or disgusted. 10 seconds to jump. The hauler shook. Callie sputtered. One of the smaller ships briefly lost lighting and came back online, flashing disco colors. 5 seconds. Talon appeared on screen, holding a wrench like a sword. "Boop. Go." 0. The stars bent. Callie screamed, not in pain but in protest. The old ship warped through space with a sound that made Ren's fillings vibrate. Light folded, time flickered, then silence. They emerged in a dead sector. No scans, no pings, no pursuit. One by one the ships checked in, all accounted for. Ren slumped back. "We did it, we actually did it." Later, on the surface of a new moon with breathable air and a decent view, the Lurine began to unpack their lives. The enclave rebuilt, small but safe. Ren oversaw the construction of a new launch pad. He named it Boop Station. Sierra did not object. Talon was thrilled. On the day of their first quiet sunrise, Sierra joined Ren near the edge of a cliff. "You could leave now," she said. "I could," he said. "But then who's going to make bad jokes and fix broken water filters with chewing gum?" She smiled. "You've changed." He shrugged. "I used to think life was just about staying afloat. Now I think it's about finding people who jump with you, even if the pod's falling apart and smells like socks."